Good morning and welcome back to the Brother Man podcast. All of you who are, of course, returning listeners, a warm welcome and a thank you for sticking with the podcast and, liking and following and sharing within your network. For those of you who are new to the Brother Man podcast, what we do is we discuss esoteric concepts and some current events, some personal experiences. It's really just food for thought, with the faith basis. I am Christian and a lot of my listeners are, resonating with that. But either way, I want to begin by speaking and praying into your life. Good and perfect things. That's definitely going to be fitting for this topic for today. But before we jump into that, I do want to speak and pray as well. Wellness in your mind, spirit, soul, body, and conscience, and that hopefully you're waking up this morning upbeat, motivated, ready to tackle everything the day has to offer, and that you're overcoming obstacles that might hinder your pursuit of happiness and joy in life. Hopefully, with the series that we just got off of, these past few episodes, the Great Commission series, if you're out there and you're listening, you resonate with that, hopefully you're waking up with a fresh resolve, maybe making that change today. Again, no condemnation if you're not. It's not a forced thing. It's a personal directing of your conscience towards God and things like that. And there's time to do so. So let's jump right in. The topic of this podcast this morning is going to be baddies and goodies, right? So kind of interesting, right? Baddies and goodies, right? So it's going to be, I do want to preface by saying that it's going to be free form, no rigid notes. We're going to piggyback off of the relationship series. And if you haven't listened to that already, I do suggest you take a listen. It's available on the homepage. But we are going to place more of an emphasis throughout this podcast episode on what a true Christian relationship should entail, with baddies and goodies, right? But I do also want to say that I recently began to tackle a new venture. It's called 7732 Interviews, and you'll find that on the YouTube channel as well. And what it is it's interviews of interesting people, in the area that I'm currently in, and getting their stories. Everyone has a story, especially fellow believers, but it's getting their stories, and allowing them the floor to talk about experiences that they've had in life and things they've seen and done. So 7732 Interviews, please check that out on the Brother Main 777 YouTube channel. With that, we are going to have a future episode on this podcast titled Travel, because the first episode that I've done for the 7732 Interviews covered travel, so I want to discuss that at length in this podcast as well. All right, so we're just going to be, laid back in this one. And again, no rigid notes. When we talk about baddies and goodies in the modern day, this is the Brotherhood of Man. When we refer to attraction, right, we're talking about aesthetic appeal, right, where it might be portrayed in a potential woman, or vice versa. A woman might find a man sexually attractive and call him, a baddie as well, right? So the idea of attraction in and of itself, right, are the ideas of physical, emotional, and unconditional attraction. Although with the last one, they're unconditional. We talk about certain things that can change over the course of a relationship if one should ensue between two individuals who find themselves physically and emotionally attracted to each other, and things such as, sickness, that can, that shouldn't alter a relationship or terminate it. Someone, either they began sick or, cancer or anything like that. And or they develop that sickness over the course of the relationship. But there are then certain things with that unconditional aspect. I might have to devote a whole episode to that idea of just the unconditional aspect, but things like the cheating, and I can refer to that episode on cheating again. If you haven't listened to that one as well, please do. But that would be something that would change the relationship, right? So it's kind of a complex aspect of attraction, but hopefully you are resonating with that and do understand what I mean by that as well, right? But we're going to hone in first and foremost on that physical, attraction. We are talking about baddies and goodies, man. And, I'm a guy's guy, right? And so, you see these drop dead gorgeous, amazing females out there, potential woman, hopefully, right? If you're a Christian brother out there, you're like, or, brotherhood of man and things like that, you're resonating with that already. It's very real. We have that physical attraction, and then we would hope to be able to pursue it and find the emotional and unconditional after it, right? So, but what is a baddie, right? What is a baddie? You know what I'm saying? It's summertime. We're all getting out and we're having, great times going out and enjoying company with people, right? What is a baddie? It's kind of a slang term, lingo for the modern day. And I could pose a definition, right? And I'm kind of good at that. Could pose a definition, right? Or we could assert, something much more grand, that maybe beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And so there's a wide spectrum of what might be regarded as beautiful. And especially as Christians, right? We take it a step further by believing that everyone is beautiful in the Lord's eyes. So you might be hearing this term get tossed around, oh man, she's a baddie and everything like that. And of course, or it's something where you may or may not agree. And then you have, things where it's like scale of 1 to 10. I used to be a younger cat and we used to do that. Grew out of it now, the 1 to 10 scale. Oh, she's a 6, she's a 7. We don't really want to get into those kind of counterintuitive things. I feel like it's more of beauty's in the eye of a beholder, and what might not be as attractive to one person might be amazing, to someone else. There are some women out there. I can attest to this as a male. There's someone out there that some guys might not be like, oh man, I don't find her, attractive at all. But man, it's a baddie to me. You know what I mean? And then, of course, I'm a Christian again, and I look for that emotional and unconditional. And that's the crux I want to get into today, right? A baddie, we refer to, aesthetics, which would lead to then the more important aspects of a relationship. Once because the physical, of course, is going to be the first thing that you recognize, right? That you see, right? So, you then want to take it then a step further and never stymie those other aspects, right? And I do want to take a moment here to clarify something, right? If you've been listening to the podcast, again, thank you. You've probably heard me reference yoga pants, as a Christian several times. And you're probably like, does this guy, does he have disdain for the yoga pants? That's a crazy thing for Christians. And that would be one of the things that might, make someone averse to converting or becoming a Christian is the didactive or didactful, regard for, sexual or alluring, lustful kind of things that might be, lustful. And I don't want you to get the wrong idea of me. I do not hate yoga pants. I actually love them. I don't wear them myself, of course, I'm a dude. But, there are women out there who wear them, and I love it, man. That you can continue to wear your yoga pants, please. Do that most definitely. And I just don't want you to get the wrong idea of me. So I do not hate or condemn yoga pants if that is the impression that you got, right? So we cleared that up. But getting to the emotional, right? The emotional and then the unconditional, right? it's kind of an inverse regard, right? You establish what you define as a baddie or what you are physically attracted to, but then we look for goodies, man, and get your head out of the gutter. We're not talking about those goodies, it's not time for that yet, but goodies in terms of this is a good individual. And how do we define that? So again, we could pose a definition, or we could, similarly to how we just asserted that beauty was in the eye of the beholder, right? For the physical aspect, for the emotional, and then the unconditional that would follow. It's on a spectrum as well, right? So there's a spectrum of goodness. And I feel like it more so involves a vibe of what is to be considered good and perfect, And then having that tandem resonance with that person that you are pursuing. And then further pursuing those good and perfect things, right? I ultimately feel like, in the Christian community, it's just easier. There's more facility. It's not 100%, right? Because there's gray areas, there's overlap, there's, ambiguity as to what we define as good, right? Which can lead to complications, right? But ultimately, it's first, I believe, deciding that after you establish that physical attraction, making sure that you are pursuing something good, because it's sad out here, but it's the truth. You have a lot of physically attractive people, right? Especially in the modern day in 2023. I know I'm not the only one who resonates with this, but a lot of physically attractive people, you got to be honest, right? Is that person physically attractive, right? On the outside, right? That's that physical. But they're completely dead, barren, subtracted evil on the inside, right? It just is what it is, And that's where those complications can arise. And we do have a couple of examples of those complications that I want to go through here, and that would be misplaced desires, right? So if you're only desiring that baddie aspect, right? I would consider that, or it can be considered as a misplaced desire. If you're desiring only physical or material things associated with that sexual, sensual, lustful ideation, that's where the misplaced desire comes in, right? Which could lead to then further complications down the road. You got to envision yourself then, in that relationship, right? Sooner rather than later, you want to say to yourself, hey, prioritize the desires here and rectify whatever is missing in the relationship, or cut ties, right? This is what we hinted on in that a cheating episode, similar to that, and there's also mental health, right? And a lot of, aesthetically pleasing, beautiful, attractive people out there are sometimes, by things that they've done to themselves or experienced in life, or just their brains are wired this way. It's sad to think, but it's the truth that they, have mental health and issues and severity of mental health, right? It's not uncommon, right? But in the brotherhood, right? In the brotherhood and the woman, how we overcome these complications, right? The misplaced desires, the mental health, any of the other ones that, you may or may not have experienced. We put God first, and that's actually tantamount, I believe, to, initiating the desire, right? The physical attraction, following through with the emotional, unconditional aspects, and then alleviating any of the complications. Because I truly believe that if two people are looking towards God, right, they have that faith. There's ultimately accountability that should be there in terms of actions within the relationship, and There's, going to be a standard of regard that will be demonstrated between the two individuals that lasts over the course of the relationship, hopefully. And then if any problems do arise, because again, it's not perfect, right? Nothing is perfect, right? It's believing in that miraculous power that God has. Sometimes, if you're resonating with that out there and you've been in, any type of serious relationship with someone and you've experienced those issues, right? And it was a Christian faith-based relationship, right? Sometimes, if you stood the test of time, first of all, I'd say kudos to you. But maybe you were brought to a point in your life, both of you, that it would take then a miracle in order to solve whatever was, creating the rift. So we believe sometimes, it gets to that point, where you might have to believe in the same miraculous power of crossing the Red Sea, or the same miraculous power of walking on water, or the same miraculous power of healing the blind, healing the deaf, and raising the dead, in order to get past that situation, right? And sometimes I believe, outsiders of the religion and stuff like that, maybe often, overlook that, and stuff like that. And it's not that they're unable to overcome situations in their relationships, right? It's just that in a faith-based relationship, that miracle covering is there. That hedge of protection is there. Doesn't mean it's indestructible. It just means that there's this backing of the relationship by God, who just wants to see, his children enjoy each other, So I just want to end by saying, it's a beautiful summer. We're all getting out there and we're going to the beach, we're going to the clubs and lounges, we're in the studios doing whatever we're doing, making music and doing all sorts of things, right? And we're having more experiences and interactions with one another, So it's that time, coming right off spring when the weather is fine, and it's a time of enjoyment, time of leisure, time of relaxation. There's still a lot of work to be done, but please get out there and enjoy yourself, even that one more time, and keep that energy flowing, that positivity, that goodness flowing in all of your interactions, if at all possible, Look for good and perfect things, and with the hope that good and perfect things will be attracted to you, right? Ultimately, if you're doing that, again, it's not going to be perfect, but it'll be the best, pursuit that you can engage, right? I'll give the final word here. Of course, we want baddies, right? However, the concept of physical attraction should never be held in higher regard than its emotional and unconditional counterparts. If one does not find it critical to pursue goodness in a potential significant other, he or she might find him or herself critically divided from the resultant relationship, if any should even form. I want to thank you for listening, and blessings from the brother man.